swinging Dick Park is the one who's like, hey guys, there's this custom of the sea thing that we do. There's no food, there's no water, you're out on the sea. You all draw straws and you figured out who you got to eat. And they draw straws. Dick Park, he gets the shortest straw. So
Dickie.
they eat his ass.
And it was delicious. Hey everyone, welcome to 500 Open Tabs. I'm Hannah Hillam.
And I'm Kaveh Taherian, coming at you from Seattle. I'm not in Seattle, but you are.
I am, actually.
You're weirdly in Seattle at the time of the recording, but now we're actually at the time of the release, both in Seattle.
In Seattle.
As well.
2 separate trips for me.
Yeah.
That's the wild thing. Yeah. Usually they line up, but...
anyway, we're here both figuratively and literally for Emerald City Comic Con, which begins tomorrow. Because today's a Wednesday that we're releasing. So Thursday through Sunday. Also, I realized I went back and listened to the episodes that we've been releasing in preparation for this. I kept saying first weekend of March. Technically, last weekend was the first weekend of March. I messed that up because I saw February still being on that Friday. So technically, it's the second weekend of March. So hopefully, again, you didn't buy tickets and fly out to Seattle during the first weekend of March.
Based on just us, not going to the site.
Us, and not looking at a calendar. Yeah,
we are not a news source.
Yes, not at all. But anyway, we're here. We're in the Emerald. It's not the Emerald
Sunny
City,
Seattle.
Sunny Seattle, drowning in rain.
Just like I like it.
Yeah, having a good time. I love Seattle. I love the convention center. I love Emerald City Comic Con. I'm very excited. We're together in person, which only happens every few months, unfortunately. But it's very exciting. You excited for Seattle for the second time?
But no, I'm excited. I definitely have everything ready. That's
good.
For sure. I've been painting a bunch of originals, so...
Yes, that's right. I've seen them. They've been
too many.
Excellent.
You know, I'm up to 70.
Holy crap. Look at you go.
Some would say that it's unhealthy, but...
I would not. But you know who does think it's healthy?
Who?
Are the people who go to the convention. They should come to table J07. Come see all 70 of these things.
Yes, all 70. And I know everyone comes to these conventions and they're all very stable, normal people. So it should be
100%.
Great. Yeah. J07. Also, we have a panel on Friday. So it's on March 7th in 2 days. It's going to be
let them know where it is.
on level 3 of the Summit building, which is the main convention center that they're going to be holding it at, room 345. And it's going to be at 6:45 p.m. on Friday the 7th. And we'll be talking about what we did in San Diego, which was escaping the algorithm. We're taking the show on the road. We'll even take, we've even brought our friend Patrick Ballesteros on the road. Yeah, Patrick's coming.
We shipped him up. No, I'm kidding. He's already going to Emerald City. And he was in a... Patrick will be on the panel. He'll be talking about how to build community outside of the online space with his fantastic pop-ups and, you know, his newsletters and other ways that you can reach out and be less miserable because you're not on social media all the time.
Yes, it truly is better not to be on there, I've found. Yeah. And also the other panelist is going to be Mike Bennett, my friend from Portland. He's an illustrator and he's the creator of the viral free little keychain library that many of you probably saw during COVID. And he does all these public art displays. He does art drops and then posts where and people rush out to get him. Like he gets the whole community involved. Portland, everyone in Portland knows who he is. He's one of those guys that just builds a community where he stands. So he's got some fun input. And that's our panel.
Yeah, and of course we'll be there through Sunday. And on Sunday night, last night, I forced you to buy tickets to go see Jerry Cantrell. Which we'll be going to see after the show, which I'm very excited about. For those of you who don't know, Jerry Cantrell is the guitarist of Alice in Chains, who's playing a home show in Seattle, which me and everybody over 50 will be very excited about.
And then there's going to be me and my 20-something-year-old cousin.
You guys were like, sure, why not? I don't go to enough live shows. We'll go. And I'm like, great, we're all going to a metal show. It's going to be fun.
Although my cousin is... at heart, a 50-year-old man.
She really is, yes. I've talked to her extensively at the table, and I'm like, you have full-on, 40-year-old tastes. That's why we got along great.
Yep, so that should be fun.
Lastly, you have your book signing on Monday. Signing.
Keep forgetting about that. On Monday at some point. So...
Not at some point. Oh, is some point the name of the bookstore, or at some point you're saying in general?
It's at Third Place Books, and it's the one nearer to downtown Seattle. I actually don't know.
You don't know, but all that information will be on, Instagram and on the Blue Sky account as well. So those are all the updates we wanted to say. Usually we say them at the end of the show, but we wanted to say them up front. We're very excited, like I said, to be in Seattle. So we wanted to share it with you guys. But without further ado, now we can go into part 2 of your tab from last week, which was about the Papwomp breaking chair thwomp, by the way. I looked it up.
This is what you remember.
Thwomp. All I remember is the pwomp breaking the stone as it tried to sit in the chair because it was being coronated as the King of England.
Yeah, that's a king I can get behind.
Yeah, long live that king. King Pwomp.
King Pwomp. Thwomp? We said Pwomp.
Pwomp was from 30 Rock. I mixed the two of them up.
Well, I'm going to keep saying Pwomp, so.
That's the one where Alec Baldwin's like, what the hell is a Pwomp? But he like throws the t-shirt or something, right? Because it's some catchphrase that Liz comes up with. Anyway.
Yeah. He throws it out. Okay. So today I'm going to get into the Stone of Destiny heist that came after I explained what the Stone of Destiny is. So I last left off on Christmas Day, 1950.
Stone of Destiny! That's all I kept thinking last time, and I didn't want to do the Bane voice because it's so played out.
I'm so glad you did it. Look, you wouldn't be a straight male if you didn't do that. You need to assert your straightness by doing that. I'm here to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
I'm going to do Borat next. Please subscribe to our podcast.
Please. Please. Despite this, okay? I know he's got a beard, okay? Like every other podcaster.
Podcaster made in a lab, as they said about our friend Henry Zabrowski.
Yep. And I know that I'm a brunette white woman who likes creepy things, but I promise we're new and original. We do talk about baseball. Okay, ready?
Yes.
I know I just started, but I'm going to start again.
Yeah.
I last left off on Christmas Day, 1950, when Andrew Hislop...
It's been a long time since we recorded.
Yeah, it's been...
But, I'm sorry,
ancient.
Please kill me. Yes,
on
throw
my
me into the
I
wood
won't
chipper
kill
and
you.
hit
You
puree.
know what? I will never puree you into the wood chipper because I want you to suffer.
Because you're not a real friend.
I want you
God.
to suffer. If you're...
okay,
all right, if you beg...
Slow puree.
If you need one foot at a time.
Yeah.
We're going to start the show at some point, I promise, okay?
Eventually.
Everyone chill. Stop skipping ahead. Stop skipping ahead! I last left off. This is the third time I've said this. Do not interrupt me. Last I left off was Christmas Day 1950, when Andrew Hislop, the Westminster Abbey night watchman... Say it. What? Hislop?
Nothing. Hislop.
Hislop. Yeah, look. I don't know.
Honestly, it sounded like a slip of the tongue as you were saying it, which is what was funny.
Mr.
It sounded
Hislop.
very literal.
Oh, true. He discovered the vacant slot in the coronation chair where the Stone of Scone, Scotland's ancient throne. I know, it's called...
Hislop discovered the slot in the ancient Scone. What the hell?
Okay,
some tongue twister. We should have said all this before we recorded to get ready verbally.
Hislop discovered the slot in the throne where the Stone of Scone had sat.
From Scotland.
Scotland's ancient throne that had been in that chair for the last 650 years, going back to when Edward Longshanks took it from Scotland and when he raided the borders.
Yeah.
So it wasn't long before he also noticed, like I said, that the chair had been broken in places, and he was like, "Oh, chair!" That's what they sound like, right?
Yeah. Oh, chair!
Oh, chair! And there was also signs of a break-in at the door by Poets' Corner, which is like the area of the Abbey where all the artists are buried or whatever.
They all sit there and smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, and judge.
Yeah.
I think there's like everyone's in there, by the way. You walk around, you're like, oh, dang, this is like a freaking mass burial of artists. Cool. After the police were informed, England awoke to the surprising news that someone had stolen a piece of their royal regalia. Sorry, I should say their royal regalia.
Quote unquote.
For the first time since Thomas Blood made off with the crown jewels.
Yeah.
The borders
to episode 22.
Where you did the Thomas Blood episode.
I'll point down so Alyssa can
we'll put it in the show notes.
YouTube.
Hannah did a whole thing about Thomas Blood and his heist story as well.
I think I get high off of people stealing from the British Empire.
Yeah, me too.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good to root for a criminal without feeling bad. You know?
They're not criminals.
They're not criminals. They're just... Anyway, the borders of Wales and Scotland were closed for the first time in 400 years, and so began one of the largest manhunts in British history. So, who stole the Stone of Destiny? I'm going to start with our main guy.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah, that's who it was. Is that from Dune? Is that Dune?
Dune, yes.
Okay, I got to send you a picture of Ian Hamilton. Ian Hamilton's our first guy. So this guy is
Did he help write the Constitution? Who's Ian Hamilton?
Here is Ian Hamilton. He is Scottish.
He looks like no, you know who he looks like? He looks like a handsome version of Alfred E. Newman.
Oh,
if like Alfred E. Newman is like the unattractive, weird looking brother, this guy's like the handsome one. which sounds like an insult, but I don't mean it as such. This is sort of what it looks like.
He's like a 5'6" skinny Scotsman who is 25. He's a law student at Glasgow University, and he was raised hearing stories of Scottish heroes and legends, and particularly the Stone of Scone, which his mother had told him about, and it had always kind of sat weird in his mind, like, well, why is it in England? And although he had volunteered for the British Air Force during the wartime, like, excitement to fight the Nazis, he came away from it frustrated with England's attitude towards Scotland, especially the strict adherence to social hierarchy, to which they placed Scotland and other Celtic nations at the bottom. He just couldn't make it make sense in his head. Like, hey, we're...
Because it doesn't.
It doesn't. Because Scotland's not part of England, okay? Yes. And at the time, a lot of Scots had kind of gotten complacent. Like, well, we're better off. It's fine. And the Scottish nationalist movement had kind of died down with the war. And he says, quote, so many Scots forgetting that one of the greatest features of our history is the mobility between classes. It was very unnatural for Scottish people to have a class system that you weren't able to talk to. You know what I mean? You could access anyone. A blacksmith could talk to the chief. You know what I mean? It was nothing. There was none of this like peasant crap that England kind of held on to. Man to man, they could respect each other as Scots, Yeah. So when he returned to Scotland for school, he was like kind of fired up and like, I'm going to join this Scottish Covenant. It's called the Scottish Covenant Association, SCA, and I'm not going to call it SCA.
Okay, I'm not going to call it School of Cinematic Arts, which is my graduate program. SCA.
Yeah, at the SCA.
I was like, oh my God, he also went to USC. He's part of the USC Mafia. Good for her.
He also has a podcast.
Yeah, he's also a master's in film and deeply in debt.
Deeply. So it was a Scottish nationalist movement, and they had a student branch. And so they wanted the right for Scotland to have a home rule, which meant be their own country and not have to go to Westminster to, like, petition for anything. They wanted their own parliament. Anyway, many Scots, like I said, were kind of like, and he loved his country. He felt strongly about ska. I said I wouldn't call it ska, but I'm going to.
He loves the genre. Skanking back and forth. He's like, I'm not skanking in front of the king. I want to just skank here at home in Edinburgh.
I want to have our own skanking fest up here in Edinburgh, not in London.
Skanking in kilts. That sounds like a really interesting evening out.
Man, that would be
painful.
Ooh, I don't know, or would it? It might be nice.
As a person with balls, I can tell you, it does not sound fun. That sounds like it hurts.
I didn't even think about balls.
I think you need to separate church and state there a little bit. Yeah. Otherwise, the skanking could get very dangerous very quickly.
I have some just amazing images in my head right now.
Bringing that. I'm coming in strong being the bro today.
Please.
I don't know why. Today's the day.
We're about to witness a bunch of bros like ruin England's life. So
okay, cool.
Bro it up.
Yeah.
So one of his mentors was this guy named John McCormick, who was actually the head of the SCA at the university. And he was, I think, a professor at some point, but he was very lauded and well-liked. And he had at one point been young and tried to steal the stone himself.
Oh,
20
interesting.
years previously. But he had never...
It's a good mentor.
Uh-huh. He heard this about the stone being stolen, and he had heard it before. And it kind of like latched into Ian's mind. Mm-hmm. And as for those of us with obsessive minds can attest, this idea grew and grew and grew, and it never left him alone. And it became this kind of special interest where he started reading about the Abbey and studying it and the stone. And he had this burning desire to do some sort of symbolic, bloodless gesture for his nation to show like, hey, we're not complacent. There's still the Scottish spirit in here, and we want our chair back or whatever, our stone. But he couldn't do it alone. And so I'm going to cut. Here's the unfortunate thing. I read Ian's book, which is an amazing... The whole book?
Oh, wow.
That's how good this book is. It is so good.
Just for this tab?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
First time I've read a whole book for a tab. It's called The Stone of Destiny by Ian Hamilton. Please read it. It's so good. Like
right now? No,
not you.
Okay.
I'm talking to the audience.
I can't read.
He doesn't know how. You're like the Charlie Kelly of our podcast. So he had written a ton about the lead up to this, and I'm not going to go into all the lead up because it's just too much. But all you need to know is that he tried to assemble a crew by talking to John McCormick. And John was like this old man past his prime, and he was like, yeah, I'm all in. I will give you whatever money you need. And he helped him find some people, like this guy named Bertie Gray, who was a sculptor and a nationalist, who like helped him learn about the stone and how heavy it was, and took him to see a replica. And
always got to have an artist in your crew.
Yep. And Bertie
You never
Gray,
know when someone's going to have to sculpt you something or paint you a nice drawing.
No, but for real.
You can't get past these cards without a nice cartoon about a brain.
Go. I'm like, okay, fine, don't worry.
Yeah. Equal cuts to everybody, including the person drawing the Sleeping Brain comic. Yeah.
Just, bwomp me into the swamp. I'm so...
Bwomp me into the swamp. I love it.
Bwomp me into the swamp.
That might just have overthrown the bog. Oh my God. Bwomp me into the swamp.
I'm like flushed. I'm so sweaty hot. It's like, ooh, bwomp me into the swamp. Okay, so all you have to know is that his friend Bill Craig, who was like, his name's Bill Craig. Bill Craig's a whole stand-up dude.
I don't trust people with two first names.
Me neither. Especially when it's like...
Is it Bill or Craig? I'm not calling you both.
I'm calling you...
Either Bill or Craig.
Bleg. So Bleg, and it was this really cool guy. He was very...
George Michael Bluth, yeah. A really cool guy.
Very charismatic. Ian was like, I'm no leader, but this guy's a leader. Anyway, he was all down for it, and they went and scoped the Abbey out. They took a train to London, and then Bill was like, hey, you want to do this at Christmas time? Sorry, I'm busy. Yeah. And Ian was like...
Got a lot going on in my plate.
You don't hate Christmas like me? By the way, Ian hates Christmas. It pissed Ian off, and he's like, fine, I'll go find my own crew. And before he knew it, he was like, I don't know who to bring into this.
With hookers and gambling.
What is that from?
Futurama.
Okay.
It's Bender.
That's right. I could tell by the tone of voice. I'm goofy this episode. Okay. I can't stop laughing. Never can. Let me take control of myself.
You better cut that out, Hannah. That's not why people listen to this show.
They come here for scholarly reporting.
Scholarly reporting.
About Scottish Covenant Association reporting. And
about
skanking.
Skanking and
Skanking on the Stone of Scone. By the way, Scone is
skanking on the scone. Hold on. Skanking on the scone of scone.
But scone is spelled scone.
Scone. British scones.
Scone or scoon. Yeah. So anyway, everyone says scone and I will not say scone. So he's like, fine. And he couldn't find anyone. He was like too scared to ask because he's like, if I ask someone if they want to be part of this, what if they tell somebody else and I get in trouble?
It's true. You got to sort of like ease into it. Just be like, wouldn't it be cool if someone robbed and like stole this back? And then if someone's like,
exactly what he started to do.
And people are like, no, that would be terrible. And he's like, yeah, totally. I just think it's terrible. I wouldn't. Yeah. Or if they're like, yeah, that would be kind of cool. Be like, no,
you want to steal? You want to go skank on the stone with me?
You want to go skank on the stone and steal the Declaration of Skank, whatever scuns?
Sorry, Scotland. Look, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's more like Scary Scotland.
Scotland. It's in their name.
It's the land of ska.
It's the land of ska. Okay. All right. I have to start the sentence. Okay. I'm begging you. I need to start the sentence. Okay. This is a long story. I gotta get going. So, Ian is down and out. Feeling bummed. Yeah. And he forgot he had this dance he wanted to go to with this girl that he had asked to this dance. And he's like, she's going to hate this. I'm such a loser. I'm so bummed out. I'm so sad. So he takes his friend Kay Matheson to this dance that's celebrating the end of term. And he doesn't talk for the first 20 minutes. And he can just feel the silence of like, wow, she is so disappointed in this. I'm such a bad date. My mood is just bleeding out. And Kay is such a great girl. And like, she's so cool. And I've always really liked her. And she's got good politics. And she's kind of like a ride or die sort of gal, and she's just lovely, and and then he realizes
he should say these things instead of just thinking them to himself.
Duh. Kay would be a perfect addition to the crew.
Oh, yeah.
Because Scotland has this history of feminine, like these female heroes. I think it's called heroines or whatever, but it feels weird to say heroine. But there's a lot of Scottish heroines that people have looked up to and lauded, and he's like, why not bring a woman? Because first of all, people love a woman. Joan of Arc, all that. Flora MacDonald.
People love a woman speaking up, especially for politics.
Well, they kind of do, though. Scotland kind of does, where they're like,
That's cool.
they were, So he was like, this could be great. Also, Kay is dope. He's always he's really respected her because she's very calm and collected and kind of like nothing ruffles her, you know? And so he dawned on him and he turns to her and he's like, hey, Kay, what are you doing for Christmas? And
this is after not talking. So
20 minutes.
He asks her to go to the dance.
Yes.
He sits there in silence for 20. This Kay like got
Moping.
ready, was all excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then was just like, I'm so excited to finally go with this boy to the dance. He finally asked me out. And he sits there for 20 minutes in silence, moping, like not talking.
Silence at the bar. Yeah. They both had drinks. And
she's like, do I smell bad? What is going on? And then he's like, do you want to steal the Babwamp rock with me? Yes. Is the first thing he utters to her.
And she laughs at him and she's like, I knew you were stupid, or something. Like she's funny. She's got like a witty sense of humor. So she's like, I didn't know you were that dumb. And he was like, I'm not kidding.
He's like, I'm dumber.
And I'm even dumber than you could ever imagine. And she's like, are you serious? And he's like, yes. And she was like, yeah.
Cool.
Dadoy. Because Kay's history, she's a Highlander, so she's from up north.
Oh yeah, she's got some rage.
She's got rage because 200 years before, England did what was called the Highland clearances, which is when they displaced people from their land and kind of just caused a bunch of issues. And Kay's family was one of those. The Mathesons were one of those families who got displaced. Mm-hmm. So she had a bone to pick with the English. And
absolutely.
She was this like small, petite, 22-year-old home ec major who barely spoke English, by the way. She spoke Gaelic. Gaelic was her first language.
I thought you were like she was a Spanish speaker exclusively living in Scotland.
She's from like Panama. No. So she's a Gaelic speaker. She speaks English, but not as well as Gaelic. And Ian says in his book, he says, it turns out that the success of the whole episode probably owes more to sheer feminine practicality.
That's how I feel about every one of the episodes of our podcast.
Where? Who? I don't have it. What are you talking about?
Alyssa's got it.
Oh, thank goodness. I was like, are you insane? You're right. Alyssa's a Kay Matheson.
Oh, interesting.
So she was like, yeah, I'm DTH down to Heist. Let's do it. He felt more bold. He was like, I'm just going to ask people. That's it. I'm asking people. Even if they know, they're not going to tell. A Scotsman never tells on each other. We're all in this together. So he finds this dude named Gavin Vernon. Gavin Vernon is this mustachioed, stocky Scotsman who his trick was that he could open beer bottles with his teeth.
Perfect.
And would do it all the time.
Gotta have one of those guys on the crew.
Yes.
You never know when you're like sneaking in, like, climbing the rope up the side. We're like, shit, we need somebody who can open up a beer can with their teeth as you're like scaling the side of the Abbey. Yeah, Gavin, no, this is a job for you. And he's like, I gotcha.
He breaks the chair with his teeth. We're not going to do Scottish accents in here. I've decided that already. So Gavin is this eccentric, quirky, boisterous. He'd like wear like football outfits around, like not football, our football, like soccer. He was just kind of an oddball, and he was hilarious. And so he was kind of this like confident, hilarious. Wild card. They needed him. You
need a wild card with some levity. To just otherwise people get too serious. They get too focused on stuff, and like just need to be like, hey guys, we heard how the real heist is the friendships that we're all gonna make throughout the process.
That's true, actually. So they had their team. So everything that I'm about to say happens in the next 10 days between December 15th and December 25th.
All right.
Next on the list, they got to get tools. So Ian purchased like this crowbar that he actually ended up, it became his like beloved like item.
Trusty crowbar.
He made it, he kind of compared it to like a sword, or like, these are my weapons.
Yeah.
And he
Excalibur.
It's a crowbar. They call it a jemmy, but I'm not going to do that.
A jemmy?
Like a jemmy, but jemmy, because Scottish or whatever.
Because of the accent?
Yeah. So he has this crowbar. He makes a special sling for it in his coat so that he can access it. But Gavin thinks it's hilarious and never stops teasing him because that crowbar just hits him in the nuts like all the time while he's walking.
When he's skanking.
Yeah. When they're skanking, that crowbar is racking him.
Bam! Bam!
Yeah. So it becomes this long-running joke of like, watch out, don't like hit your nuts with this crowbar. And he had to kind of like walk with his arm down holding it so it wouldn't like hit him in the crotch. Anyway, that was their fun little joke. Then they needed a car, and Gavin's like, we'll go rent one. Let's do that. And then we'll rent another one in England, and we can like swap a stone between them. They had a whole plan.
Perfect. So, hopefully while it's moving.
Yeah, they're just going to throw it into the windshield of the other one. Bye, Kay. See you later, Kay. So Ian wanted to involve Bill, the guy who was like, I can't do it. I have plans. Bill Craig. And he's like, Bill, here's you're going to be our contact. Here's some code words and code names or whatever. Then they go to pick up the car, and Gavin is just telling the guy all about their plan.
The guy that they're like renting the car from? Or
the
like
guy, this kid was just there. And he was like, guess what we're going to get this car for? And Ian was like, are you kidding? And so he goes over there, and it's this like skinny blonde, like 20-year-old. And he's immediately like, I want to come with you. And Ian was like, I don't even know who you are. No. Yeah. And then he said, I have a car. You don't have to rent a car. I have a car. And he's not even a nationalist. This kid
That's
was
good
named...
producing. That's saving money, basically, right there.
Yeah.
That's more for beer and snacks later.
Oh, totally. Which they needed. They ended up needing all the money. Enter Alan Stewart, the 20-year-old civil engineering student who is earnest and unpretentious and optimistic and would turn out to be a true ride or die. So they drive 18 hours to London because it was snowing. They were like, well, we can't go back now. We have to keep going. In this Alan Stewart's parents' little Ford Anglia, which was like a kind of... Have you ever seen Harry Potter, the second one? The flying car.
Oh, it's sort of like an old Mini Cooper or something.
Yeah,
is what it looks like.
It was a very common family car at the time. Took forever. The car had no heat, and it was like below freezing up in the Highland, up where they were. They get to London. They rent a second car, and Kay mentions that she is thoroughly unimpressed with her first time in London, and she prefers the Highlands any day. And Ian's like, I like this girl.
Okay.
So they go over to a pub across the way, and they have their council of war, as they called it.
Yeah.
And they go in over the plan, which was Ian would hide in the Abbey until it closes. He'd wait for
Just
the
in the
watchman.
bathroom or what?
You'll see. He'd wait.
He's just going to go into the stall and stand on top of the toilet seat so that like when the security guard goes under to like look at the feet that are sticking out, and he's just like, well, no, there's no one here.
The security guard hears skanking from the toilet.
He slips and his foot falls in and he breaks his ankle and he's like, oh, I can't. And then the crowbar stabs him through the jaw. I don't know why that got so violent, but it did.
It's fine. It's fine. There's no blood in this story, so
okay. We got to create it.
We got to create it. So Ian would hide in the Abbey till it closed. Then he would open the door for Gavin and Alan, and Kay would be waiting with the car. They'd lash the stone they'd take the stone from the chair, lash it to an iron bar, and carry it out. Put it in the Anglia. Drive it to the other rental so the Anglia could be free of the stone because that was the one that would be spotted, possibly, and put the stone in the rental. Alan and Kay would then take the stone to Dartmoor, I don't know where that is, to hide it. And the other two would drive the Anglia, a decoy, toward the Welsh border. And their plan was, if they got pulled over, to convince the officers that they gave the stone to the Welsh nationalists, who they didn't tell any of this to. So it would have just been sending the police.
Just blame it on the Welsh.
Which is like, come on, guys.
The Welsh are like, what?
We're with you.
We don't even know what this Papwamp thing is.
We also hate the English. Why are you doing this to us?
Also, a question. How is this thing? I can't remember if you mentioned this last week or not. It's pretty heavy, right?
It's 400 pounds.
Dude, that thing's going to sink the car, right? Like this little tiny Mini Cooper ass thing.
Oh, yes, it will. So they start. They're going to wait till Christmas. They were like, let's wait till Christmas Eve. And Ian's like, if I wait, I won't do it. And he says...
I totally understand that. You got to just do it immediately. Otherwise, you're like, I'll get around to it. And then you forget.
He says nervous people like him, if they're tired, then that's when they should act. Because if they were more awake and more in their own head, they would talk themselves out of it.
That's true.
They were all very tired because they hadn't slept. They had driven all night. And he's like, we're doing it tonight. What?
The beer council. They have been beer counseling as well.
Exactly. So they go off and they get into position, and Ian goes inside. And while he's in there, he spots a cleaning trolley, which is like a cleaning push, like a cart. And he hides in it or under it and waits.
This is like trying to escape prison in a movie. It's like, the laundry cart, but he's like reverse.
It's like he's in it. And then he doesn't hear anything, so he takes off his shoes so he can tiptoe over to the place where the chair is.
Okay.
And suddenly he hears keys jangling, and he's like,
"Oh no!"
Because he was
keys from E.T. Peter Coyote showing up.
I've never seen E.T. I know. If I had money for every time someone gasped with that, I'd be slightly richer. Before he knows it, he hides behind a statue. Like this. By the way, the Abbey is filled with the graves of kings, and so you have to wind your way around these statues and monuments and literal graves. And so it's this maze. It's one of the weirdest places I've ever been.
Okay.
It's just like a mishmash of different eras of graves of kings and queens. And so he hides behind one of these statues. But the guard finds him. He flashes a light on him. And he's like, what are you doing in here? And Ian's like, and then the guard thinks he's homeless and needed a place to stay. So he hands him some money and says, get out.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. He said he felt, this is the one time Ian felt guilty about like ripping off an Englishman, because this guy had like kind eyes and was genuinely a really good person. So then he gets pushed out the Abbey and he's like, dang it. So he goes back to the meeting place and Gavin is like, what? And he said the cigarette dropped out of his mouth when he saw him. And everyone was sad and bummed out. And Ian says in his book, he said, laugh, you bastards, at the idea of 4 youngsters raiding the heart of the empire with no money, no backup team, and no headquarters other than an old car. But we persisted. And they owe that persistence to Alan, that boisterous 20-year-old who was like, look, guys.
Open up beer bottles with his mouth?
No, that's Gavin. Gavin's the crazy one.
Alan's the unassuming one who had the car.
Yeah.
Alan Stewart, another person with 2 first names.
2 first names. It's unbelievable. I'm going to send you a picture of the 4 of them. So on the end, on the left is Alan, and then Kay, and then Ian and Gavin.
All right.
They all got cigarettes. They're all linking arms.
Yeah, they're all wearing like long coats.
That was the coats they wore to go tour the Abbey as tourists.
Okay.
And then here's a picture of the boys. I like this picture because you can kind of see their personalities a little bit. So this next little part, they're all bummed. They decide to do it again the next night, Christmas Eve. And a bunch happens, and they go back and forth. They're kind of like, what do we do? What do we not do? What do we do? And finally they settle on the new plan. And it would be 3:00 a.m. on Christmas morning that they finally enter the Abbey. And luckily, they had overheard a guard telling another person his schedule. And so, like a movie, like a cartoon. Yeah. So at 4 a.m., they pull the car into its designated hiding spot, and Kay sits in it. And the 3 boys hop the fence, ready to go in. Ian realizes when they get to the door that the crowbar is in the car. So he has to run back and get it.
One time he didn't put it into his jacket.
That's exactly his best crowbar. And Kay is like, what the? And so they finally get the crowbar, and they all have to pry the door, that pine door to Poet's Corner, open, all 3 of them. And with every push, it is the loudest sound ever. And he's like, there's no way no one heard that. And when they finally cracked the door open, it was as loud as a gunshot. And Kay, like in the car, Kay like jumped because she was like, what was that? The Abbey was pitch black and only a little bit of light from across the way. And they only had a flashlight, and it was weak. But they had all memorized the plans of the Abbey when they had, been planning. And so they walked as quietly as they could up to the tomb of Edward I, the guy who had originally stolen the stone, gave it a little glance, had a little meaningful moment of like walking over his tomb to take back what he stole.
Yeah.
And they had been nervous to break this ancient chair. But once he saw it, Ian was like, you know what? The English have run the risk of having their chair damaged ever since they built it to receive stolen property. I don't care. And he broke it open, and they couldn't get the stone out. So as quiet as they could, he goes behind me, starts pushing it, and it's making a bunch of noise.
This is
echoing.
Why you need the babwamp in your group.
This is why you need the babwamp. They left the babwamp at home, and it's silent except for the sound of this scraping and pushing, and yes. And then that echoes through the whole Abbey. And again, he's like, any minute now, someone's going to come in and find us. But they don't. Nobody comes. Nobody answers. And it's
Christmas Eve. Everyone's like,
Christmas.
No one would rob. What are they going to rob? A giant rock
church?
On Christmas?
It's the church. It's a church. And so they can't get out of this chair. And so finally they get the crowbar, and they're like wiggling the stone out, breaking the chair some more. And Ian's in the back just like pushing it with all of his might. And they finally get it out. And they pick it up, and they carry it a we ways, and Ian helps. And then they're like, this is way too heavy. And so they put it on the ground.
Would you say 400 pounds?
400 pounds.
Dear Lord.
And they're like, what do? We can't carry this. So they decide to take Ian's jacket and put it on the jacket. And then kind of all push it
slide
out.
it.
Slide it out so it doesn't make that horrible sound.
Got it, yeah.
And as Ian begins to drag the jacket, it feels really light and easy. And he's like, what? And he turns around, and they realize that the stone had broken in 2 pieces. It was broken. Cracked open, broken. And
right
Alan,
in the middle.
Right. Well, more like to the side, because it was like one piece that was like 300 pounds and one that was 90 pounds. And Alan said he wanted to vomit. He was like, I wanted to throw up right then and there because I can't believe we broke the stone. It turned out it had already been broken. They noticed that it had looked like it had already been broken. And there had been a bombing earlier by suffragettes back in the 1910s.
Oh, no way.
That had damaged the stone. And so luckily they realized, like, okay, we didn't break it, but it was still like this sick feeling in their stomach of like,
they got in trouble with Mom.
We just broke the heart of our country's nationality. Like, we broke it. Like,
I think though, if you broke it in the process of stealing it back, if I was Scottish, I'd be like, you know what? It's okay.
I can't believe they did this.
Yeah. Like, I would not be in a position to judge somebody for breaking that stone in the process.
They did this with almost nothing.
Yeah.
Like, but this desire, I don't know. Ian,
love it.
People listening, I highly recommend his book. It is so good. It like made my day. Like I feel like a better person after reading it. Anyway.
Cool.
The stone breaks and Ian's like, doesn't matter. So he picks up the 90-pound one and he lifts it and he starts running with this one little piece of stone, almost the size of him. I mean, almost the same weight as him because he was little. He's like a 5'6" skinny little Scotsman. And he's like, it wasn't even hard. I just ran with it. Like, full on ran out the door.
Adrenaline's running through their systems, I'm sure, at this point, too.
Yeah, out to the car.
Pumped.
Opens the door. He's just laughing. He's just like, oh, we broke the stone, Kay! And he just like throws it in the back seat, shuts the door, and runs back inside. And they get closer to the door. Ian realizes he hears Kay. He hears the car. And he's like, no, she's too close to the door. She's not supposed to do that yet. And so he goes out there and he's like about to tell her, like, hey, don't. And she's like, hey, a policeman has just seen me and he is coming across the road right now.
Oh, no.
Yes. So this police officer comes up and Ian and Kay just immediately start to like cuddle and like make out. Like, okay, we've got to have a cover. They make out, they cuddle, and they make sure this cop sees it. And he comes up to the car.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, yeah. Ooh, just what I wanted.
That's why I take this night job. He's at a parks. The pay's not very good, but I do get to spy on weird young people fooling around at night.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. This cop was way friendly. So he goes up to the car and
he's
like,
you guys looking for a third or what? One of them, what do you call them? Thruples?
You down for a thruple?
Yeah.
Oh, you're Scottish. No. So he's like, hey, what are you here? Why are you here? And they're like, oh, sorry, we're just in love and young and didn't know where else to go. And he was like, well, there's a car park like a parking garage over there you could go to. Oh. That'd be a good one. Which is like,
I got some cameras set up over there. It's great. Save it for later.
Sick. But I thought it was weird that he was like helping them find a place to make out.
Yeah.
So this cop just starts talking to them. And they're like, hey, buddy, go away. They want him to go away. He gets a cigarette out. He puts his helmet on the car. And he's just smoking and talking and like complaining about work.
So what's your name? Yeah.
He was like, can't wait till 6 a.m. when I could go home. And they're like, thanks for giving us your schedule.
Man.
And he's like, you can go to that parking lot over there. And Kay says, oh, well, if we're not comfortable there, we can always get you to run us in and give us beds in the cells. And they all laugh, and Ian starts to hear this scraping noise coming from the Abbey, and he's like, are you kidding? And
so every time it's scraping,
they start laughing
like,
louder.
Sorry, my throat is very scrapey right now.
He just starts making Scottish noises, like no, he hears this scraping, and so they start to talk louder and joke louder, and the cop's like, oh, no one would arrest you today, it's Christmas. And Ian says, good night for a crime then. And then they all like, ha 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 ha. And the cop's like, okay, you kids, keep me young, you know? Love watching you kids.
Keep me young and not attention, if you know what I mean. The
pervy British cop. So more loud laughter, and finally he lets them go. And they have to leave in the car, and they're like, "Kay, because Kay was like, show us where the parking lot is," and they're like, "Okay, follow me," and she's like, "Well, shoot, now we gotta follow him." Turns out it's the same parking garage the other car was in, so they'd already known it. So they end up going to the parking garage, and they're like, "Now what?" Because they were obviously. Oh, I forgot to mention, he had seen Gavin's dumb little head peek out of the Abbey after the scraping sound. and then immediately go back in. So they're now in this parking lot. Like, what do we do? And Kay is like, I'll take the stone. I'll take this part of the stone. I'll take it to my friend's house. I'll hide it. Okay. You go back and get the rest with the other car.
The 90-pound part, you said, correct?
Yes. And so Kay puts the stone in the car. They put it in the boot, the trunk, and she drives off. And they find out later that the stone actually bounced out of the car, and she had to get out and put it back in. So
bounced?
Like fell.
Thing made of rubber?
I should say rolled.
Blump, 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 blump.
Yeah.
Pwomp, 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 pwomp.
Pwomp, pwomp, pwomp. That's where it was. Anyway, Kay, in like a busy-ish Christmas morning, she had to pick up this stone. It was like most of her weight and put it in the... Anyway, adrenaline's a drug. Hell of a drug. And so she goes. She's gone. Ian is like, I have to get the rest of that stone. So he goes back. Oh, he goes to get out of the other car, realizes he doesn't have the keys. They're in the Abbey with his coat. And so he has to run back to the Abbey, crawl on his hands and knees, find the keys on the ground with just matches, realizes that Alan and Gavin aren't there anymore, and he's alone in the Abbey, sees the stone is still there, so he goes back to the car with the keys, gets in the car, arrives all the way back to the Abbey, pulls it right up to the Abbey. At this point, he's like, I don't care if I get caught, I just have to see this through. Pulls the car up, goes in there, and he lifts that stone by himself.
300 pounds.
100 pounds. He said he felt like the whole of Scotland's soul was on his back as he put it in his car and threw it in the trunk, got in.
It's like the end of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Seriously. And he was pumped with adrenaline, hadn't slept in 3 days. He was pure manic, and he was just singing and yelling as he drove away. And as he drove, cop cars were coming toward the Abbey, and he was like, I got it, I did it. Literally minutes later, that's when they discovered it was missing. So he doesn't know where his friends are. He's peeling around corners. He somehow, by complete coincidence, comes around this corner and sees Alan and Gavin just walking down the street. And he like speeds up to them and squeals to a stop, and they hear that squeal and they flip out, and they think the cops are there to get them. And so they just start booking it. And he's like, stop, I have it, it's in the car. And they're like, whoa, and they all get in the car, and they realize the car can't hold all of them. The stone is too heavy. And so they're like, Gavin, you have to go home on a train. And he's like, all right, whatever. And so Ian and Alan then are like, we have to take this stone somewhere else. Where are we going to take it? So they drive south to Kent. And at this point, Ian said he starts feeling like vomiting, and he's dizzy, and he can't see. There's all these black flecks in his eyes because he, again, hadn't eaten or slept for like 3 days. And he almost blacks out as they drive south.
Crap.
Shaking and insane, the two of them find a place, lift the stone again out of the car, put it in a field, and cover it with like bushes. They head back, stop at a pub to eat, and hear everyone talking about the stone. Well, he realizes that the common English people are better than anglicized Scots because they were on their side. Like,
okay, nice.
Yeah, so he was like, oh, cool. I'm kind of like cool with some English people now. So since this tab was all about the heist...
Almost like sometimes our government does not reflect what the people think.
Yeah, almost like it's run by a bunch of lords and ladies who were given that position based on how they were born. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna land the plane. I'm not gonna go into the way they went and got the stone, but they did retrieve the stone from that field. Okay. They had to talk their way through a Romani traveler encampment that had set up right on top of the stone.
Classic move.
But these Romani were like, you need help lifting that? And they helped carry the stone to their car because they were like, cool. screw the English. Yeah, who cares? And so they ended up driving it. This came later. They went out later and got it. But after they dropped the stone off, they went up to the border. They drove all the way home. And everyone was excited. That was all the talk. Ian said it was like a high. He could hear everyone talking about it everywhere he went, wondering who it was. A lot of people came and asked him if it was him, and he's like, no, it's not. It was a full media circus, right? Britain's like sending out these papers that are like, who has the stone? The Scots say nothing. Like all this like wild British press, and they were all just basking in it. And Kay had gone back and gotten the other stone, and they had gone back and gotten the rest of it, and they brought it to the Scottish nationalist that could fix it, John Rollo. He was a brick mason or like a stone mason, and he repaired it
together with chocolate and caramel.
Yep, he taped it and put some
heir of the Rollo fortune.
Oh, Rollo! He's like, here, guys, it just falls apart again.
That's why I became a mason, to be able to stick stuff back together again.
when Ian handed the stone off to him, he felt empty. Everything hit him. All the adrenaline left his body. He said he felt like he'd peaked and his life was over, and that everything from here on was downhill. He had FOMO. He wanted to accompany this stone wherever it went because he was like,
it's just called being an adult, buddy. Just keep feeling that over and over again.
Welcome to adulthood, Ian. Yeah. But then he realized that that's not what this movement's about. It's about everybody, and that he had done his part, and now he was passing it to the next, passing the baton. And the police were down in London, meanwhile, like looking through the river. They're dredging the river, and they hired psychics and like diviners. And so everyone in Scotland was like, these idiots, psychics. The psychics kept giving them false like
I'm seeing the rock is missing.
Gone. Is that right?
Starts with an S. I'm getting an S letter. Swamp.
Swamp.
Go to the swamp.
Ba-bwomp to the swamp.
Ba-bwomp to the swamp.
Months go by, and no one finds the stone. No one finds them. Police come and question them, but the Scottish police are kind of like, well, we're kind of on the side of the thieves.
We're like, where were you the night of... okay, cool, we did it. Bye.
No, seriously, a lot of them were just like, it's just we have to, but you know.
Yeah.
So everyone was excited about it. But Scotland, the public started to be like, hey, so where's the stone?
Yeah.
Why isn't it showing up? And they realized that they needed to show this stone somehow. So they sent this letter to the crown being like, hey, give us freedom and we'll give you your stupid stone back.
Oh.
And so then everyone got all riled again. And then they're like, well, but now what do we do with the stone? We have it? Who do we give it to? Like, some student group can't just have this stone. We can't hide it. And they ended up deciding that they were going to leave it up to the Scottish government and the Scottish people. So in the dead of night, they draped a Scottish flag on the stone and they carried it to Arbroath Abbey, which was where Scotland signed their Declaration of Independence in 1300, in the 1300s. And they put it on it was a ruined abbey. It was all ruins. And they put it on the ruined altar of the abbey and set it there. And they left it out of our hands. We brought it back to Scotland. Unfortunately, the person who found it...
I was going to say, is it their pervy, like, nighttime guard who just, wants to watch little kids, young teenagers making out in cars, but the Scottish equivalent of it?
Stone.
Yeah.
Except he's way just into stones instead of... Yeah. Anyway. So I'm waiting for this day my whole life. Love ruined abbeys and nighttime. Well, unfortunately, they gave it to the police. Whoever found that stone gave it to the police. And they told no one about it. They gave it back to England. And it was taken back to England in the dead of night. And when everyone found out, they were pissed. Scotland was like, are you kidding? And they eventually found out who did it. And the English were like, we're not prosecuting. Scotland will rise up. So these guys just got let off the hook. The four of them were fine. Never got in trouble. 2 years later, Queen Elizabeth would sit her butt on that chair on top of that stone. Become queen.
She blomp her way down to it.
She blomped her way right onto that stone, and it pissed Scotland off even more. But what it didn't do, it didn't quite like push the nationalist movement, but it did light a spark. And over the next 50 years, it would grow and grow, and Scotland would start to come back into its own, start to refer to itself as its own country. No more British, working toward a parliament. And finally, in 1997. They devolved from the English government, which means they had their own parliament. They could make their own decisions. They were still part of the United Kingdom, but they were no longer had to go through Westminster to pass their own laws.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think 10 years later, Wales did the same thing. But before then, they had no one in Westminster to represent them, but maybe a few people. And in 1996, the Prime Minister said, okay, you can have the stone back as a gesture of, hey, you are your own place. This is yours. It was really cool. And it was kind of out of the blue. They were like, thank you. But Ian refused to go to the ceremony because he said it wasn't truly theirs again. The English were still saying, here, you can have it back. It wasn't true freedom.
It wasn't like a, sorry, we stole this from you.
It was like a, here.
Impose our own will on you. Yeah.
And it really bothered him the way they gave it back. Gavin went to the ceremony where they brought the stone. He went to Westminster
like, listen, are there going to be free beers? I'm going.
I'm here. My teeth are here. But Gavin went back to Westminster Abbey to watch them move it. And then the guard was like, welcome back, Mr. Vernon. I'm going to end on this. Ian, he died just last year, 2 years ago, at the age of 90-something.
Wow.
And in his book, he said, "It was from my father. I also learned another lesson that has never left me, which is this. Man is answerable only to God for his conduct. And if there is no God, a matter which I have always been in great doubt, then he is answerable only to his own conscience. No man-made law tells a free man what to do. All it does is tell him what the punishments will be if he breaks that man-made law. It is the moral conscience of each individual that binds people together and makes community life possible. Not court, not lawyers, not judges, and certainly not police. They are merely regulators, but we are the people. It is we who make the community, ourselves alone." I thought that was a really great thing to say. That he, by the end of his life, there still wasn't independence, but he didn't care. He knew he did something for it. He did his part. And he was proud of it, and he never regretted it for a second. He went on to be a lawyer.
He went on to live for another 70 years, which is crazy.
And refused to look at that stone again because he's like, "Oh, that's not why I did it." I thought that was kind of cool. And here's the weird thing. The four of them never saw each other again.
Never saw each other again.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was almost like this weird, like, this was our thing, and now
this was our time.
We united, and then we went our separate ways. And they all went on to live pretty long lives, and it did really spur the Scottish nationalist movement. And now I'm fully in favor of Scotland being their own country. Like, what the? Anyway, the stone is back in Edinburgh, and it gets to be used for coronations only.
Okay.
So still not quite free, but
sure.
Closer. Anyway, that's the story of the heist of the Stone of Scones. The Stone of Scone.
Story.
Thank you.
The Stone of Scones.
Skanking on the Stone of Scone.
Skanking. That was excellent. I really enjoyed that story.
Yeah.
Ian's a cool dude. He's very good writer.
I love Ian. I know I said this 3 times. Read that book, Stone of Destiny, Ian Hamilton.
Okay.
It's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
So my tab this week actually comes from a listener email.
Ooh, I love these.
It's actually extra exciting because the person who sent us this tab is Sophie, who came to our show from me being on House of Pod with Dr. Hoda.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They heard me on that show, and they heard that I had a podcast, and they were like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'll go listen to that." And then they wrote in an email. So thank you, Sophie, for listening to both, supporting the Kaveh community across the podcast landscape.
The council will be pleased to hear this. The council
cross-show collabs are working, everybody. We got to keep doing it. I told you, we got to be on more shows.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, Sophie is currently in law school.
Oh.
And, quote, "One of the few things that keep me from throwing myself into the La Brea tar pits is the occasionally unhinged case law we get to read. I opened this tab after reading the 1884 case of Regina versus Dudley and Stevens."
A lot of names there. You mean the tartar pits?
The tartar pits, exactly.
Yeah.
So normally we would read the entire email, but since this is a tab, I won't read the entire email. But after reading her email, I was off to the races, giving myself a panic attack, receiving way too much dopamine at once with all the possibilities that this tab could be, but I'm going to limit it for the reasons that I thought it really stuck out. I'm just going to stick it to that. So the aforementioned case of Regina versus Dudley and Stevens, which I will get into, concerns the murder of a young boy named Richard Parker.
Okay.
Not young. He's not like young. He's like 17, 18.
Okay, yeah. You got to say that.
Young ship boy named Richard Parker.
Okay. So
young man named Richard Parker.
Okay.
And as I was reading Sophie's email, I was like, why do I know the name Richard Parker? And then I remembered that I had Life of Pi on in the background a few weeks ago. And the name of the tiger is Richard Parker in the movie.
Really?
Yes. So it's based on a book, obviously, and then they developed it in the movie. But I only watched the movie. I didn't read the book. But the full name of the tiger the story goes that like they were sending the tiger to the zoo that they had in India, but like they mixed up the names in the paperwork. So the name of the tiger ended up being the name of the actual hunter. So it's Richard Parker.
I love an animal with a full human name. I think it's one of the funniest things.
Well, it's also really funny because I don't know if you know about Life of Pi, but it's like he's stranded. He's basically there's a
on
shipwreck
a boat with the tiger, right?
With the tiger, yeah, it's like a 450-pound Bengal tiger. He's stranded on it, and there's all this voiceover, but the whole thing is like he just keeps referring to the tiger as Richard Parker, like full first and last name, which I love. So like that's why Richard Parker normally I would not remember a name like Richard Parker, but he kept being like Richard Parker was doing this. Like Richard Parker got really angry. Richard Parker taught me. Anyway, I love that part of it. Always cracked me up, so I loved it. So when Sophie sent this email, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I wonder if there's a correlation between the two. I was like, is Richard Parker like a thing like that I read? So I went and looked it up and to see if there's some sort of inspiration. Turns out Not only was this case an inspiration, but 2 other stories, one real and one fictional, both involving a ship boy named Richard Parker and cannibalism.
Yes.
So I'm going to summarize all 3 of them for you today. The Richard Parkers.
Hold on. So this tiger was named after one of the Richard Parkers in one of these stories?
Yeah, so basically the writer of Life of Pi, whose name is Jan Martel.
Okay.
He somehow, when he was like reading a bunch of stuff about like boats and whatever, and he was like, I noticed that there was like multiple stories of somebody named Richard Parker that were involved in it, of like ship boys getting eaten at sea or somehow involved in it, both fictional and real. Like I told you, there's 2 of them. So he's like, certainly there must be something to this Richard Parker thing. So he just was like, I'm going to contribute to it and like put it into my story as well.
Okay, I need to hear this.
So there's a couple of examples, but so these are the 3 main ones. So first
up, if you're going to eat anyone, you're going to eat the cabin boy, right?
Gotta eat Richard Parker.
Yeah.
So first up is Edgar Allan Poe's 1838 novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, which is the only long-form piece ever written by everyone's favorite Raven Boss Boy.
Oh, he is a boss. He does have boss boy energy.
Oh, he's super boss boy. So I didn't find any direct sourcing of this, but Poe may have gotten some inspiration for this story from an English sailor executed in 1797 for his role as president of the so-called Floating Republic.
Oh, I know all about the Floating Republic.
You do know about it?
Yes.
Okay, aboard my favorite part, aboard the HMS Sandwich.
They named it after the islands, or no? I don't remember.
They just really like sandwiches. Anyway, that was Richard Parker.
HMS Sandwich.
The story's not particularly like interesting about Richard Parker, but it sounds like he was sort of like a fall guy or whatever. But regardless of the inspiration, the story of Pym goes as such. It's narrated by the titular Arthur Gordon Pym, and he talks about like how he grew up in Nantucket, and there he had a friend named Augustus, who was the son of a sea captain.
Oh.
And Augie used to tell Pym stories about how he and his dad would sail through the South Pacific, getting into like cool adventures and all that kind of stuff. And Pym was like, bro, that sounds awesome as shit. Plus, my all-time favorite song is In the Navy. I think I want to be a sailor.
My lifelong dream.
Exactly. And Augie was like, yeah, cool, bro. Hell yeah. Like, ocean boy bosses for life. Let's do this.
Yes.
Friendship
ocean boys. Oh, we're just the 2 little ocean boys out here on the open sea.
Ocean boy bosses. So one day, Augustus Gloop's dad was heading off on another whaling trip.
I don't even remember his actual name.
It's
Augie?
August. Augustus. I'm sorry. Augustus is his actual name, but then of course he's Augustus Gloop.
I'm picturing Augustus Gloop on a boat, but let's do this. Okay.
That's exactly what we should.
Is it in a chocolate river? Are they sailing down a chocolate river? Okay.
He is. They're going to go on a whaling trip. Famous chocolate whales that they have to go slaughter. And he goes off. So I guess Augustus's dad used to take him with him on the trips.
Insane.
And Pym. I mean, in the story anyway. This isn't real. So he's going off on this trip, and Pym begged his friend to help him sneak on board because he's like, I really want to go with you guys out onto the water. And Augie's like, okay, sure. I guess you could just like stow away with this dog in this weird closet and breathe all these like weird fumes. Like, no big deal. Like in the supply area, just hide out here.
You know, I simply would not do that. That's what I would say, you know what? On second thought, no.
Not for me.
Not for me. Not going to do it.
And Pym, he's all excited. He gets to be on the ocean and he's like stoked. And then like things are going great. He's like kind of half in a coma because he hasn't had real oxygen for weeks. And eventually he gets this note written in blood from Augie that says, hey, you should probably stay hidden a little bit longer because it's not really safe for me to bring you out just yet.
What was it written in blood?
Eventually, August Osage County finally lets him out. And he's like, bro. He's like, yeah, sorry. Shit's gotten like real bad while you're in there hallucinating. There was this mutiny and they killed like half the crew. And then the other half, they got sent on like a little dinghy or whatever, like into the ocean, including my dad. And like, that sucks. But check it. This guy, Dirk Peters, he's pretty cool. I mean, he definitely did the mutiny part, but he's like sad. And he feels bad about it.
He's misunderstood.
He didn't think it was going to go like this. He just wanted to, I don't know. But he feels really bad. So like now we're friends. It's okay. Don't worry about Dirk.
Dirk is good. Dirk's fine.
Yeah, he regrets it.
Dirk is dope.
Dirk is dope. Exactly. So Dirk and him are friends, and Pym's like, okay, shit, I guess. Maybe we should kill all these dudes and mutinize the mutineers and just do it, right? Because if there's one thing that happens, right, they say hurt people hurt people. Yeah. Mutineers mutinize.
Mutineers mutinize, yeah. I've seen that written on a poster somewhere in a
That's what my therapist used to always say. Yeah, exactly. And by some miracle, they're able to do it. They like reverse mutiny the mutinizers.
These two kids?
The three of them. So it's like these two kids and Dirk.
And some dude.
Who's like, the
guy who buys them beer at the gas station.
Yeah, basically, he's like, double change.
Oh.
And they kill everybody, or like they send them out in the water or whatever. They win. They take back the boat, except for everybody. They get everybody except for one person, who is, you guessed it, a person named Richard Parker.
Oh, poor Richard.
The reason they keep Richard Parker is because they need a fourth guy to help run the ship.
And he looks delicious. He turns into one of those big ham
turkeys.
Hocks. Well, they look at him. They hallucinate him being this big, beautiful, shiny dinner.
Yeah, and he's like, the best meat's in the rump.
As he wiggles his butt.
Yeah.
Hey, boys. Oh.
Hey, guys. So they're sailing around for a while, and of course, there's no food. And then they start getting crazy, exactly like you said. They're hallucinating. They're seeing all these things. And so, funny enough, old swinging Dick Park is the one who's like, hey, guys, there's this custom of the sea thing that we do as boat people. I'm not sure if you heard about it.
All four of us kiss. And on the count of 3. Anyway.
Yes, they all kiss. 4-way kiss. No, have you heard of the custom of the sea?
No.
So custom of the sea is sort of this thing where they're like, there's no food, there's no water, you're out in the sea, there's kind of like international waters, it's not really, you all draw straws, and you figured out who you got to eat.
It's a sacrificial lamb, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. But, of course, so they're like, okay, I guess, they're all, whatever, they're hallucinating, they haven't eaten, and they draw straws, and wouldn't you know it, Dick Park, he gets the shortest straw, so Dickie. They eat his ass.
And it was delicious. Yeah. So wait, did they just kill him?
They just kill him and eat him.
Well, how did he respond? Was he like, okay, I guess that's what happens.
Rules the rules. He's the one that's the thing. Don't propose eating somebody because you might end up being the one who gets eaten.
Wow. Yeah, Dick, shut up.
It's dumb. Anyway, so he's dead and they eat him. And then sadly, Augustus Gloop dies.
Oh, they could have just eaten him.
Yeah, but he drowned in a river of chocolate. Yeah. So Pym and Peters are like, dude, sailing straight up sucks. I don't want to do this anymore.
Sucks.
My friend's drowning. I got to eat this dude's ass. What the hell is this shit?
I get to.
Yeah, I get to eat this dude's ass. So
why do I always make this gay? I don't know why I do this. Every time there's a bunch of dudes, I'm like, kiss, let's kiss. Okay.
You never know. They're out in the ocean for months at a time. There's no ladies.
Sailors were.
Yeah, big time.
Sailors did whatever they could.
Over the pants HJs left and right.
Over the pants BJs.
Yeah. So anyway, they're sailing around and for a while and they keep getting into more random stories and chapters and it doesn't really matter, whatever. For the point of this tab, the story continues, but then the book kind of ends weirdly abruptly.
Oh.
And it's literally the editors add in a note, which is, it sounds 100% like, note, Poochie died on the way back to his home planet, is what it reads like. Because Pym is the narrator. And so the last few chapters are quote unquote missing, and they were gone with him. So, but if we ever find those chapters, we will make sure to print them. The end.
That's fun.
That's the end of the Poe book.
Oh wow.
So that's the first Richard Parker. The second story.
Rip in peace.
Rip in peace. The second story is the sinking of the Francis Spate.
Okay.
Now, the Francis Spate was a trade ship that carried Irish immigrants to America.
Oh no. Okay.
And then on its trip back, it brought timber.
Okay.
Which makes me laugh because if I was an Irish kid and I saw this ship filled with all these people that I know go to America and then come back with wood, I'd be like, are they turning all these people into wood? What is
All I know is they get on that boat and they come back wood.
Yeah.
You explain it.
It's correlation. I would have been completely confused by all that.
Yeah, and I'd be cool, my aunt and uncle are now pieces of wood.
Yeah, exactly. So on December 3rd, 1835, the crew of about 19 or 20 got into a shipwreck on their way back, and they lost all the food and water.
But not the wood.
I guess not the wood, but the wood's there. So 15 men survived by clinging to the hull initially.
Oh.
Now here, one of the dudes who died in that first round was a man named Richard Parker.
Okay.
So in this story, he doesn't have much influence, but the story does continue.
Okay.
So after enduring horrible conditions for a couple of weeks, the captain proposed, much like the Democratic Party, that lots should be drawn among the 4 youngest crew members to be eaten in order to preserve the oldest members of the ship.
That'll never fail us.
Yeah.
Oh,
Eat the flesh of the young.
That is insane.
Yep. And this is true, by the way. So the first one was the Edgar Allan Poe story. This is a thing that actually happened.
Okay.
And of the 4, a guy named Patrick O'Brien was ultimately killed and eaten. Eventually, as was another adult sailor and another young sailor and another, like, one of the boys. So in total, 11 survivors were rescued on December 23rd. So it's about 20 days.
Don't go to sea.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it. I think I might have just volunteered to be the one to be eaten.
So in this story, so there's not a whole lot written about this one that I could find, but from one of the accounts that I could find, like, somebody was like, I'm not going to, like, they were trying to get the cook, not the chef, to, like, kill this guy. And he's like, I'm not going to do it. Like, I'll volunteer. And then, like, Patrick O'Brien was like, a bunch of people kept standing up and being like,
kill me.
Like, they were being heroic. They were just being like, just kill me. Like, it shouldn't just be a random person. I think because everybody was also like, what is this bullshit about these old people being like, well, I'm old, like I should eat the young person. And I'm like, no, you're old, you should die. I say this as a person who's middle-aged, so I'm sort of like neutral on that.
You're the one that's just like, kill that guy.
Yeah, kill the other guy.
Kill this one. I agree.
Although I guess you can make the argument that a younger person's got, like, more muscles, better meat, maybe
that
more
doesn't
sustainable.
Matter. The young person can, like, I almost said fly the boat, but that's not what
fly the boat.
Drive the boat, sail the boat. They have, like, more, like, strength. Why not eat the
I don't know if I want to eat a bunch of stringy ass, like, beef jerky ass, like, 75-year-old flesh.
Really? Okay, here's the thing. If you had to eat any of your friends. Actually, maybe not a good question.
Yeah.
If you
now
had to
I'm thinking of which one of my friends I would eat.
Any age of person. I think I would, okay, now that I think about it, I'd probably eat like a 25-year-old.
See, I probably would eat, best. I think, like, a little bit older, like early 30s. Because you're like, you still got enough of that muscle mass, right? From like your 20s when you're young, but then you're starting to get a little bit of, like, that midlife weight gain.
Yeah.
Which means that, like, you get that nice
fatty.
Marbling and fatty, so the meat's a little bit more delicious. So it's not too lean.
Delicious. 30-year-olds are the best. I'm a breakfast boy is going to eat this 30-year-old for
listen,
breakfast.
If you're buying anything higher than 85%, you're getting too lean. It's not really good. You need that fat for the flavor, you guys. Don't grind up 30 or 25-year-old meat that's like 92%.
See, I can't say all this because I'm a vegetarian. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. No, but, like, you got to have a little bit of
meat tastes like. Isn't that weird? I was thinking the other day, I'm like, I don't remember what meat tastes like.
It's anyway. That's unfortunate. I love meat. Eat it while you can before it's all gone. They're eventually rescued, like I said, on December 23rd. The crew of the Francis Spate that was left, and they returned to Limerick, which is where they were from originally. Yeah. And the Francis Spate was towed to safety and continued to operate for some years in the immigrant trade, and their horrors were still well known.
Oh, imagine being like, we get the Francis Spate. Great.
Yeah. The cannibal boat with, like, people die. Who
die, get eaten, and turn to wood.
Yeah, exactly. What a crazy ship. Turning Irish people into wood and then eating the flesh of young men.
Hey, to each his own is what I always say.
You know who else thought this story was insane and weird? Was Jack London. Jack London wrote a story called, you guessed it, The Francis Spate.
Oh, that's where I've recognized that. That name sounds familiar.
Did you read a lot of Jack London?
No, but I've read that name somewhere. Like, I feel like it's in the zeitgeist.
Of Jack London. Jack London, or you're saying Francis Spate,
Francis Spate.
Francis Spate.
Fancy Spate.
Francis Spate of the Spam. I don't even know what that was. Yeah. No, Jack London writes a story about it. Although the important person of that story is not Richard Parker. It's Patrick O'Brien, who's the person that got it.
Oh. But it does. Okay, so why does he write it? Why does he call it Richard Parker?
Why does who write Richard Parker?
Did he call it Richard Parker?
No,
he called
Jack
it.
London.
I am very
Francis
confused.
Spate. Also, Francis Spate is a confusing name. It sounds like another person rather than the name of the boat.
There's a lot of names this podcast.
Yeah, it's too many names. Francis Spate is the name of the boat.
Okay,
Richard Parker was one of the first people who died on that boat.
The delicious boy, yeah.
No, he's not the delicious boy in this case. He's the one who just drowned and died when they first got hit. The delicious boy was Patrick O'Brien, who helped keep the Democratic Party alive longer by letting the older people consume his flesh.
As we should.
Yes.
We are the Richard Parkers of the Democratic Party?
100%.
Oh. No,
I like that you just called us young. That's nice.
We are.
That's good. It's good to know I'm not too old. Listen, I still wear ankle socks. I don't care. Bring back ankle socks. I know that young people think they're lame. I love socks. Yeah.
I don't care what any of you guys want. All you Gen Zers. Because you know what? In the end, nothing matters.
Nothing does matter.
Nothing matters.
The third and final story of today.
Okay.
Is the case of Regina versus Dudley and Stevens that Sophie emailed us about initially.
Okay. Ooh,
so this is also a true story.
This is true.
So in 1884, which is 46 years after the publication of Poe's novel, 4 men set sail from Southampton in a small yacht named the Mignonette.
Oh, I just pictured minions. Being a parent has destroyed my brain. I was always like, we're not going to watch Minions. There's no fighting it. So the entire
crew is just like they're all like bring up the
sink that boat, blow it up. No, the other day I was in the car because my son always requests Minions, the YMCA version of the Minions singing the YMCA, which is just...
Oh my God, that's the second YMCA reference today. I love it.
It's true. That's right. He's always like, I want the YMCA Minions. He calls it just papaya. And so I had it on. I dropped him off.
Why papaya?
Because they always say papaya. Anyway.
Oh, I see.
I dropped him off at school, and then I realized I drove halfway home still listening to the Minions soundtrack without even like noticing. And I was like, cool, my brain rot.
You're saying no, it sounds like you've just learned to just remove it.
Yes.
Where you don't even notice it if it's there.
Well, I was like humming along.
Probably not even realizing that you've been full on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
you've been radicalized.
It was a moment. Anyway, so the Mignonette.
The Mignonette, which is the Minions yacht.
Do you think they'd be good to eat?
The Minions?
Yeah.
That's a good question. What do Minions eat? Do they eat a lot of papaya?
Probably.
What do you think a Minion's made of? Are they fleshy? Are they bony?
Fresh.
I'm not as familiar with the Minions.
I think they have. I drew a Minion once cut in half because I was so sick of them. And I put just one large bone going through their body. In the center of it? One bone. And
they could be more like chicken wings. I think I think one Minion's not enough. You got to throw them all into a pile. You got to have nuggets. A side. Yeah, like chicken nuggets or chicken wings.
Cheese curds. They have cheese curd vibe.
Oh,
yeah.
Minions over the top of fries with some gravy, some blood gravy. I love this.
Yuck. I don't love that. I would look.
A poutine of mignettes?
I would eat a Minion. I would. I would break my vegetarianism to eat a Minion because I think that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that I can't turn down.
Ah, flesh tastes exactly how I remembered it.
Cartoonish and green and yellow. Ooh, make cracklins out of their yellow skin. Can you stop me?
No, I was like, this is going into weirder places. Anyway, so these 4 men set sail from Southampton in the Minion yacht. And what they're doing is they're delivering this yacht to its new owner in Australia.
That's a long trip.
So I guess, I'm not sure, but they were sort of like the Uber boats of their day or some shit.
Whoa.
And which I think is like, there's just this dude in like Australia waiting for the yacht, and he's just like refreshing his phone over and again. And he's just like, they're still 10,000 miles away. When's my yacht going to get here? Yeah.
3 weeks? I can't wait that long.
This tracker is bullshit.
They are not getting a tip. That's for sure.
Oh, he wouldn't have. The guy who orders a yacht through that is not going to give him a tip anyway.
No.
He sucks. He's going to be like, you're actually like 6 minutes later than you said you were going to be. But like you said, it's a really long trip. It's like 10,000 miles.
That takes because they have to go down around like the Horn of Africa, right?
Exactly right. That's exactly where they got to go. But
there's
fear
no
not.
Suez Canal at that point.
No, the Minionettes. The Minion cap. They're all just gonna be minions now.
Sorry,
Captain Minion. His name was Tom Hudley. I'm sorry, Tom Dudley. Tom Dudley and his crew of Ned Brooks and Edwin Stevens all had like 4.9 star ratings because they'd been doing this for like a long time. They were a bit
trustworthy.
Seasoned. Very good. The one time they got like a 4-star review, it was because like, I don't know, they weren't chatty enough with somebody that was on a yacht. But
yeah, it's rich people.
Now, those are the 3 guys, the seasoned ones. Now, the 4th and youngest member of the crew was
Richard Parker.
And he had some stars to earn.
Yeah.
Richard Parker was only 17, so he had like a 4.6 star rating since he'd only been sailing for like a year, because I assume you get your boat license at 16 after 6 months of having your boat permit.
You gotta have the permit.
You gotta have the written boat sailing test.
Which I passed.
Yes.
But I did not pass the boat sailing test. I ran a boat stop sign.
How many times did you have to take it? You ran a boat sign?
No, I ran a stop sign, and the teacher said, just turn around and go back. I was
on your test or in your class?
On my test.
On the test? You're like, sorry, I was listening to the Minions theme song in my head.
YMCA and gibberish.
Yeah.
No, she was like, you just may as well turn around. And I was like, all right. And then I didn't get my license until I was 18 and a half.
Wow, that's quite a long time.
Yeah,
because you ran through the stop sign, they made you delay 2 years, or you just didn't go back to do it again?
It's a long story. I'll tell you sometime. But I finally got one and then I was the one with the car in college, and I regretted it.
You regret being the person that everybody wanted to ride.
I was the one, because I went to college in my hometown, and so I had a car, and everyone's like, Hannah's
got a car. She's the one who runs stop signs. Let's all pile into her car. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I'm not great.
I'm not exactly what you would say a good driver.
Good driver, but I am a good friend. So how about that? Okay.
That's true. You are a very good friend.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Anyway, you're my favorite minion. So on their way from...
Please don't eat me. I won't ever run a stop sign again in the ocean. Okay, continue.
On their way from Madeira to Cape Town, when they were sailing, they got hit by like this giant ass wave, and the yacht sank.
You know what? I don't feel bad. No, I do, because they don't have the rich people in there yet, huh?
Yeah, they're delivering the yacht to the rich person in Australia. This is Rupert Murdoch, who's probably been alive this entire time since the 1800s.
Probably. I'm imagining just the bloated corpses of minions. So yeah. I need you to keep talking.
Anyway, the yacht sank from this wave, or like, I don't know, maybe like an orca attacked them, or it could have just been one of those like really poorly made Timo yachts.
Yeah. Shouldn't have ordered it online.
Shameful. Just order real proper yachts.
It showed up like way tinier than
it. Or it was like an IKEA yacht where they had to like sit and assemble it.
And they all fought.
Somebody forgot a part.
And of course someone forgot a dowel. And now...
I'm not looking at the directions. There's no point.
It's just a boat. I can build a boat.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it sinks, and then the yacht guy, let's just call him Rupert Murdoch Minion. Okay. He got really mad because now the yacht pen was just sitting in one place and not moving. And he's like, I'm never going to get my yacht. And he folds his arms and he's like, I want my yacht.
Where is it?
It's just puree me. Luckily,
okay.
All 4 dudes aboard managed to escape in a dinghy.
Oh, good.
But now they're just floating around in the South Atlantic hundreds of miles from land. And they had no water, and this is true, only a couple of 1-pound tins of turnips.
Oh, that Richard Parker's looking real good right now. Real juicy.
Because if there's one thing you never sail home without, it's goddamn turnips. Like, what the hell is this shit? Mario 2? Turnips? Are just canned turnips?
Let me check my bag for everything. Got my phone charger, got my turnips. We're good.
Disgusting. Gross. And they're all sitting on the dinghy, and they're pissed because they're eating turnips, obviously. But not because they might die, but because this is going to affect their star rating, which means they won't be able to get as many good fares, and then they're going to make less money.
And in this economy, you can't have that.
This is the worst. We live in the worst possible system. I hate it. It's terrible.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
So they're like, whatever. They're eating turnips and they're fighting sharks that are coming up to the boat and whatever. They're hitting them with like their oars. Allegedly. I don't know.
Crazy.
And finally, one day, a very friendly turtle swims by next to them. And he's like, hey, how's it going? What's up, guys? How you doing?
Jonathan.
But they murder that turtle and eat him.
Yeah. I bet he tasted great.
Yeah.
That's why they all went like almost extinct, because sailors just slurped all that turtle guts out.
Slurping them up, all the turtle guts.
They're
also drinking their own piss. Which to me, as I was reading it, I'm like, this sounds like some new like bro diet trend, which is turnips, turtles, and piss can help you achieve maximum ketosis.
TTP. Turnips, turtles, piss. And then you just go absolutely destroy the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet after you eat all that.
I can't wait till the next, like in the manosphere, where they're just like, I've just been eating like turnips, turtles, and drinking my own piss, and I don't eat it until like after a 37-hour fast, and I just feel like really good.
I feel like I can see God.
Yeah,
I feel like I can taste. I don't know.
And on Thursdays, I microdose turtle piss. It's amazing.
I combine them and just drink turtle piss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. You don't really need more than turtle piss.
And everyone on the podcast is like, because it's a podcast. Like, he's talking about, yeah. I've really loved the benefits of turtle piss.
Yeah.
And now a break for our advertiser, Turtle Piss.
Turtle Piss.
A busy man doing man things? Just drink a turtle piss.
Drink a turtle piss.
Okay,
Dip it in some turnips. Dip some turnips in turtle piss.
Turnip piss for vegetarians.
Yeah, it's true. So anyway, after a couple of weeks, Richard Parker was like, damn, all this turtle meat and piss is making me super thirsty. So he takes his chances with seawater like an idiot. And sure enough,
Richard,
like a Super Mario power-up, he gets super diarrhea. And
of course he does.
And all the minions on the boat are so pissed. They're like...
Like diarrhea?
Bro, like our ratings are plummeting and now you've got like super diarrhea on the dinghy. Like, where do you think he's going?
Imagine being stuck on a small boat and someone has diarrhea.
That sounds like absolute worst.
I would simply jump off.
Yes, I would just drown.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not happy about it. And, they're like, this idiot with his diarrhea. This absolute idiot with his spraying diarrhea, wasting valuable turtle piss, just not making this any easier. And so, sure enough, one person whispers to the other person, it's time to talk about the custom of the sea. And they start debating it. And ultimately, they did not come to a consensus because of the protest of Brooks, one of the minion men.
Okay.
And it sort of like petered out. But eventually, Dick Park, too, he's clearly dying. And because from so much diarrhea, he's getting dehydrated. He's blowing out. And Dudley's like, dude, come on, you guys. We got to stay alive to disappoint our families back home. And this kid's only 17 and he doesn't have anything to his name. Plus, Diarrhea Boy's not going to last much longer. And if we wait till after he dies, there won't be any good blood left.
There's no good blood.
Yeah.
You have to kill him and eat him fresh. You can't wait till he can't wait till he diarrheas himself to death like the Oregon Trail.
A diarrhea dead boy is not going to work. That's not the diarrhea dead boy boss. It's not going to happen. Can't be a boy boss if you're dead from diarrhea.
You cannot. That is what I've always heard. You cannot be a boy boss if you're dead from diarrhea. Write that down.
So, controversially, without drawing lots, Stevens holds down Richard Parker's legs as Dudley stabbed a penknife into Richard's jugular vein. Just straight up murdered him.
You just drink right out of him like a water fountain? What happened? So
they caught a bunch of his blood in a chronometer case. I don't know. And they drank it like vampires. They're just like...
Just don't go to sea.
Don't go to sea. They're like, oh my God, this tastes so much better than piss.
This is so... Look, on a scale from blood to piss, I like blood.
Much better to have young boy blood. So then Richard Parker's body was stripped and butchered. They ate his heart and liver right away, with some strips of flesh set aside for future rations.
Boy boss, blood boy.
Blood boy boss, which is, again, another thing that like older tech people are doing where they're taking the blood of young people and putting it into their own bodies.
Putting blood into their bodies.
Much like me, when I reached the food coma stage after devouring a fresh Costco rotisserie chicken, eventually they were like, I don't want to deal with the rest of this. It's too greasy. So they just threw his corpse overboard.
I love the sound. I keep imagining the sound of that. And then the plop, and they're all like covered in blood and like, okay. Plop.
Yeah, they're just like, what just happened?
Where's Richard?
Where's Dick? All this was in vain because no more than a few days later, they were finally rescued by another ship.
Oh, wow.
In total, they were at sea for 24 days. And eventually, they get back to England, and people were like, so what happened to Richard Parker, like the fourth guy that was on the ship? And like, this is crazy to me. So like, why wouldn't you just lie and be like, he drowned?
He drowned. We lost him.
I don't know why. For some reason, Captain Dudley was like, oh, we had to eat him, but it was, quote, tragic. It was a tragic necessity, but it was well in line with well-established maritime traditions.
So
I don't get it.
That is mind-boggling. Just say he drowned when the boat got wrecked. Easy.
Why would you tell anyone? Just be like, we're in the ocean. We're minions.
Say that this is
the part of the
turtle.
minion pact. Yeah,
right.
We just ate the turtle. The kid died. He just drowned. Oh, he diarrheaed himself to death. He was already going to die.
Oops. Wow. Don't be honest, everybody.
Yeah.
If you're in this situation, lie.
Yeah. And eventually the British courts were like, no, I don't think that's a thing.
No way. So they got in trouble.
There was a whole court case about it.
Wow.
And this is the note from Sophie, who originally wrote us in, and said, quote, and that's how I learned that necessity is not a common law defense to homicide.
Whoa.
So even if you're like, but I was really, really hungry and I had to live,
Whoa.
You can't just murder Richard Parker.
You got to wait for Richard to poop out before you murder him.
Yeah, or something.
Before you eat him. So so I guess that makes sense because like those Uruguayan, that team that crashed in the Andes.
Yeah.
I think they waited until everybody died before they ate their teammates. But like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. You can't murder someone to eat them. You just have to like eat what you can get if they're already dead.
Yeah.
Whoa. So they had to make that a law.
There's a whole law about
it. This.
Yeah. I think this is the first precedent. Yeah.
I love laws like that because it's like, that means this is because something happened that made them have to do this law.
Spoiler alert, you can't just eat people at sea and not expect consequences when you come back to land.
My summer is going to go very differently than I originally planned.
Make sure to cancel that boat trip we were going to take for the podcast.
Yeah, we were going to see who could kill the other one first.
Yep. Postscript from Sophie. Crime law was my highest grade that semester when I was reading.
Yeah.
Salute to Sophie.
Sophie, I love that story. I loved those.
Yes,
Richard Parker.
So those are the stories of the Richard Parkers. Thank you, Sophie, for writing in. We're very excited that you were listening to the podcast now.
Welcome.
And supporting Kaveh's everywhere. And that's the end of my Richard Parker tab.
That's awesome, dude. Thank you. That was really good. I do have
many
a
Richard
question.
Parkers.
I have one question. So Life of Pi, did the author name him that, like kind of a tongue-in-cheek, like, I'll name him Richard Parker because he's the cabin boy that dies all the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
what I was saying earlier, is that like he specifically was like, there must be something to this. Yeah. The fact that Richard Parkers keep getting eaten and like dying at sea or whatever.
It turns out it's just a common name, and a lot of people died at sea. But
if you are named Richard Parker and you listen to this podcast, don't go on a boat, but you should write us in.
Yeah.
If any stories of some of the times that people tried to eat you.
And please come on the boat with us this summer.
The Richard Parker boat tour that we're going to do.
Please.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of our tabs. But let's go ahead. How do we want to close our tabs this week? I think, did we already do the babwomp last week? I don't remember.
Yeah, we did. We babwomped.
We did the babwomp.
Dang it!
How about getting babwomped into the swamp? But that's not really part of this. Should we have a boat crash?
Yeah, let's do a bunch of boat crashing on the. I think we did that already for the Nico. Not the Nico brothers, the Zeno brothers.
Brothers.
Let's do one where.
Richard Parker, mutiny.
Oh, they could get eaten by a tiger.
Eaten by a tiger. Yeah, let's do it. All
tiger growling.
Count us down?
Yeah. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Let's finally close all these.
Yeah, I had a lot of
two-parter. Okay. Listener mail?
Yep, you're up first.
I'll go first. From Sabrina from Toronto. Hi, Hannah and Kaveh. Long-time listener, first-time emailer. I want to let you know that I just got my Throw Me in the Bog sweater and I absolutely love it. Especially as someone who is studying aquatic ecology, which is literally, she's a bog scientist.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The tab I have for you.
Dr. Bog.
Dr. Bog.
A bog doc.
We do a lot of insane wordplay on here that's only funny to us, and I will not stop.
I'm not going to stop.
Never.
Turn it off. If you don't like it, just don't listen to our podcast.
Don't listen, but please rate us.
Why are you listening to our podcast in the first place?
Please
subscribe.
Rate us and subscribe.
Rate us. Write a review. It helps.
It really does, guys. We want to make this last. Okay. The tab I have for you is courtesy of one of my classes last term, and a story that makes my whole ecology degree worth it. I am here to tell you about Operation Cat Drop. Essentially, in 1960, the pesticide DDT was used in the island of Borneo, now part of Malaysia, as a way to kill malaria-carrying mosquitoes. But there were unintended consequences. Of course there are. You drop pesticide into the nature, yeah. The pesticide accumulated in lizards and cockroaches, which then was eaten by the cats, causing the cats to be poisoned and killed. Or the cats were killed from direct exposure to DDT. Then, due to decrease in the cat population, this created an uncontrolled rat infestation, which spread their own diseases. This is why you don't mess with the ecosystem. You can't do it. You can't do it. Even though it's like, let's get rid of mosquitoes. You don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, so what did they do? Obviously, the UK
dropped in hippos.
They did, and they ate all those hyacinths. Obviously the UK Royal Air Force, which was that's where Ian served during the war. He was an air pilot, Ian Hamilton. From my story. Okay.
Oh, I see.
I'm just tying it in. So what did they do? Obviously, the UK Royal Air Force put out a recruitment ad looking for 30 flying cats to rout rats. Put those cats in crates.
These are not cats that are actual pilots, I assume.
No, and they don't have wings.
Oh. I was like, knew some flying kittens from those from the Cordwainer Smith novels.
Oh, they can like blast lasers. Yeah.
Yeah. Pew, 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 pew. Goodbye, roaches and rats.
That's a good cat voice.
Yeah. Hello, I'm a cat. I'm flying.
Put those cats in crates and threw them out of a plane via parachute.
Just this is like a sequel to the Beavers. Yeah, nice.
Yep. And had them fight the rat infestation. Duh. Newspapers at the time reported that 23 cats were used in Operation Cat Drop, while some, obviously fake, but real in my heart, accounts would later say that 14,000 cats were used in the operation. It seems to be a little lost to history.
23, 14,000, same thing.
Same thing, yep. It seems to be a little lost to history if this actually worked in the long term, but newspapers at the time called the mission a success, so that's a win in my books. Keep it Josie, Sabrina.
All right.
Oh, I said Toronto, but she's from Canada. Nowhere in this email is the word Toronto.
I mean, Toronto is in Canada, so
I know, but
sort of maybe why you assume that.
Okay, your turn.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, email number 2 is from Nikki from Portland.
Cool.
Which is a stone's throw from where we are right now in Seattle for Emerald City Comic Con.
But not a stone of scoon's throw, because that would kill us.
That's 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Hi, Hannah and Kaveh. I am not an open tabs person, although I appreciate the weekly exploration of neurodivergences different from my own. I'm an avid collector of weird trivia and historical facts, though, so I'm a big fan of the Voynich Manuscript.
Ooh, Voynich Manuscript?
Do you know the Voynich Manuscript?
Definitely.
The 600-year-old untranslatable text about ... something? It's debatable, or is it?
This book, you got to look at this. It's beautiful. It's like it's like a illustrated manual about a bunch of stuff that doesn't exist on Earth and not in a language we know. So,
the email continues. A lot of the illustrations depict women and genitalia. So the theory is that it was some kind of woman's health textbook, which had to be enciphered, my new favorite word, to protect the information within. As it turns out, humanity has been trying to control women's bodies for a while now, and a lot of useful information had to be hidden to protect it from political/religious persecution, yay, or to keep women from learning too much about their bodies, boo. It's fascinating stuff, and given how anti-health the current administration is proving to be, it might be time to start enciphering again. Love the pod. Keep up the great work, Nikki. So you do know about you've read quite a bit about the Voynich
Yeah,
manuscript.
but I didn't know they had figured out that it might be about sex and women. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Although you should go look at pictures of the Voynich manuscript. It's like reading an alien book.
Really?
Yeah, it's really cool. Anyway, you can submit your own listener email at 500opentabs@gmail.com, 500. And you can also do voice memos, correct?
Yeah, voice memos, if you want to keep it to around 90 seconds if you can. A lot of people to just write out their email and then read it. But we like to hear your voices, but just let us know where you're from, what you learned in your tab, and send us the link as well. So we can share it with
tell us how many
else.
tabs you have open.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, maybe we should start adding that on.
I've kept mine low, from the great delete, the accidental great delete.
The great deletion of 2024, yeah.
Yeah, I've kept mine around 150. This is just the first. Yeah. So also, you can follow us at 5. Thank you. It will not last. You can follow us at 500 Open Tabs on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Follow us for more updates. Of course, this week we're in Emerald City, but now we can announce that pretty soon we're going to be in Chicago for C2E2.
Yep, sharing a table again. So excited to see the Midwest.
Yeah, that's going to be April 11th, but obviously we'll have more information for you guys about that as it comes. But we were waiting until Emerald City to be able to announce it. So, of course, during the Emerald City episode, we announced it. But I'm very excited for Chicago.
Me too. It's a good show. It's a really good show. And tell your friends about this podcast, please.
Yeah, if you have a friend, if you know Richard Parker, send this to him. Yeah. If you know of a Womp.
Yeah. If you know a Scottish person,
definitely send it to a Scottish person.
Please.
Yeah. Well, the more you guys can share this with other people, even just one person that made you think of this episode, that this episode made you think of them, send it to them.
This is the last kind of truly algorithm the podcasts do not have algorithms, and so this is the old school way of sharing it.
Yeah.
And we want to keep it that way, obviously, but also we want more listeners, so please.
Yeah.
And
sign up for the Discord, sign up for Patreon, etc., so on and so forth. But until then, Hannah, thank you for the tab, and
thank you.
I will see you at the Gwen Stefani tribute toilet.
And I will be there waiting. I don't know. Keep it, Josie. That doesn't sound right anymore. Okay. Womp me into the swamp. How about that?
Womp me into the swamp.
Womp me into this. Okay, I'm done. Thank you, Alyssa. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Alyssa. Bye.